Welcome to another episode of The Big Word with Almuli, ladies and gentlemen. The Forum for Naga Reconciliation was formed in 2008 with a singular goal of engaging the armed Naga groups to invest in the aspirations of the people that they should unite. It was the visible expression of the decades-old call of the people that the many and deeply divided Naga nationalist organizations need to reconcile and work for peace. The forum had its tasks cut out for it. The years following its formation would be rife with dialogue and difficulties alike, often punctuated by violence and media war among the Naga groups. The founder and convener of the FNR, Reverend Dr. Wati Iyer, is with us today in the studio to talk about the vision and challenges of the forum, the way forward, and what it could mean for the Naga people. Hello, Dr. Iyer. Welcome to my show. How are you feeling now? I remember you asking me where the location of the office was. How did you find this?
Well, you said it's opposite near to resort. And I guessed that this will be the building, and I was right.
Yeah.
So it was not a difficult thing.
No difficult thing.
Yes.
Yeah, we thought if we gave you instead the location of Domino's, I thought you might get it because people remember food. They don't remember offices.
No.
You don't know. Yeah. So
Domino Pizza. Is that
yeah.
what it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a pizza shop down there.
Okay.
Like, do you like pizza? Do you like pizza?
Oh yeah, I do.
You really don't like someone who would take pizza.
Well,
You don't?
but I like pizza.
Yeah. So I think this is the second time that we're meeting over about 20 years. I was there when the forum was launched. Do you remember Hotel Saramati?
Yes.
2008.
This was not when the forum was launched.
I see.
It was by the time we came to Saramati, we were already making contacts
I see.
with top leaders, and it was in Hotel Saramati.
Yes, we were there.
That the public said you have to bring the top leaders, and we give you 40 days.
40 days.
Yeah, that's what the public said. We give you 40 days.
40 days.
Yeah.
So, which means the onus was on the FNR to bring them together to dialogue, or was it on the organizations themselves?
No, earlier we were meeting the second level.
I see.
The top leaders were all in foreign lands.
I see.
Isaac and Muiva were in the Philippines.
The
and
late
some-
Isaac.
the late
Okay.
Isaac and T.H. Muiva. They were sometimes in Europe.
All right.
In the Philippines, in Thailand, and of course Kaplang was in Burma. So it was very difficult to bring them.
I see.
But the public said no, you will have to come.
They'll have to
You
come.
will have to come and meet.
Okay.
So that was September. That was the meeting in the month of August,
The month of August.
2009.
2009.
Yeah.
I thought it was 2008. I remember because all the
No,
Morong Express journalists were there. I think.
That was, I think, the Sema Church.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That was that also was in the month of September 2008.
Okay. I read during the time that when the forum was initially launched, it was actually the result of a prayer.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, it was a combination of many things.
I see.
Uh,
Tell us more, Doctor.
Yeah. I think you can rightfully say that the nature was on our side.
I see.
We had reached a certain stage where the atmosphere, the condition or the situation in the Naga area was really going from bad to worse.
Really, I remember.
In Mukchung, shops were closing before the sun went down.
Right.
You have heard about that. Kohima, more or less the same thing. And in Dimapur, I grew, I am from Dimapur. By evening, you hardly saw shops open.
True.
That
true.
was the kind of a situation.
Yes.
And every day in the local media, you hear about factional killings.
Right.
Every day.
Every day.
Factional
I can attest to that. I can
Yeah.
attest to that.
Factional killings in Mukokchung, Tuensang, Wakha, Kohima, Mukokchung, Dimapur, everywhere.
Right.
Even going through, going to Oriental Theological Seminary from Dimapur, from Kermol, I would go every day. 2 times I've seen dead bodies on the roadside. This is our Naga view. So that was the kind of a situation. That was the context then. Many young people will not know that.
They won't.
But,
They won't.
People were not free to walk around. They were all afraid. Neighborhood. It was almost like a ghost town.
Right.
So in that context, the forum came into being. People were defining loud and also saying that something ought to be done. That was the feeling of the people.
Right.
And the church was saying the same thing, and prayer groups came about, and they started to work out a program for peace and reconciliation. So it was in the month of February 2008 that the public decided that there should be a group of people who should work for peace
Right.
and Naga reconciliation. So in that context, the forum was born.
I remember a time in the Morong Express, and which is similar to the experience that you had. You say that you saw 2 dead bodies, during the time, and I think those were very common occurrences. Many young people, they don't remember that the armed Naga groups used to come out fighting in the streets, literally. And I still remember during our time at the Morong Express, someone was actually chased down and shot right at the junction where the Morong Express office is located. And like you say, those days Nagaland Post used to carry a small section on the left corner of the newspaper, 1 shot, 1 killed. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah.
It was almost every day.
Every day.
Every day. So now the Forum for Naga Reconciliation, Dr. Wati, it came around 2008, right? So 2008 was one of the bloodiest periods in the history of Nagaland, in a sense that I think you remember there was one Naga political group, out of which a new group came out, and violence began to spill onto the streets. So when the Forum first emerged, do you think it was pressurized by, not necessarily by the community, but actually pressurized by the violence that the Naga political groups themselves were perpetrating? It was not necessarily the community, but they themselves. Do you think, on hindsight?
Well, from both sides, I would say. Meaning to say, it was the violence that was speaking aloud within themselves that this is not the way. But you also have the public. The public opinion was very passionate.
Yes, I remember.
The public started to say enough is enough. I think that's the way they feel. So when the forum, after the prayer program in the month of February, when Naga Hoho, the church, decided that we should form, it was not named yet.
It was not
A
named.
committee should be formed to work on-
NBCC?
and all the
Okay.
So 39 organizations came.
39.
39.
Okay.
So you have to understand that those days you did not have all this organization. You had Naga Hoho. Naga Hoho meant all the Nagas in the east, west, north, south. That's what's it. There was no CNTC, there was no NTC, there was no ENPO.
No Manipur, no Nagaland Nagas.
Well, you had the UNC, United Naga Council of Manipur.
I say.
Okay. But the Naga Hoho and the church came, they were very, very um, uh, intentional. They said something ought to be done. And along with it, 39 organizations came, including our Naga brothers and sisters from Arunachal,
Right.
from Kachar Hills, and said, and they named it Forum for Naga Reconciliation.
Okay.
It was in the month of March in 2008.
2008.
Yeah.
So the formal launch of the movement was 2009, right?
No, after the formation, we started to move around.
Okay. Okay.
So the church and the Nagaho said, well, you can have two from Nagaho, one from Nagaho as a member,
Okay. Okay.
one from the NBCC,
Okay.
one from NPMHR, Naga People's Movement for Human Rights, one from UNC, one from NSF, one from ANSAM, Naga Students of Manipur, and Naga Mothers. So altogether we were 12 of us.
Okay.
And the gathering requested me to be the first of all. They said, you have to be the chairman. I said no.
What was your reservation?
Well, I said I was busy. I could not, I thought that this is going to be a tremendous responsibility, and that I will not be able to give the time, because I was also in a college, and I was also looking after the college.
You were the
I was
principal
the
during the
principal,
time.
yes.
Yeah. Continue.
So I thought it would be too much. So the first meeting just dispersed without coming to a conclusion. In the second meeting in Kohima, in Hotel Jafu,
Okay.
again, it fell on me and that you have to be the chairman. So finally, I called up my wife and I said, there is a pressure, what do we do? She said, well, this is your passion. You have been so passionate about the Naga cause, so you prayerfully consider. So I went to back to the meeting and I said, all right, friends, I'll convene the meeting for a few until we find the right person.
Okay.
So for the time being, I'll convene the meeting. So it's in the resolution. For a time being, what they will convene. So I said, no chairman. The name chairman should not be used, but say convener. So that I can convene the meeting at the initial period. Of course, that convening is nearly 15 years now.
Right. I think they made a very good choice, do you think?
Well, I don't know.
You don't know. But I think there's been a lot of progress if you consider the period, the early 2000s where and how they are now. So now, till the point of the time when the unification, NACN unification group was formed, I think it should be around 2011 or 12, the community...
No, before that.
Yeah. So till that point of time, there was a lot of violence, like you said. We have seen it, especially for those of us in the media, we've seen a lot of violence. Those that were reported and those that were not reported, which means the Naga political groups were really divided, Dr. Wati. So if they were divided to the point where they were actually hunting down each other and each other's families, then certainly there must have been some kind of an opposition from them about the work that you were doing to unite them, right?
Yes.
Was there any opposition?
Well, ethnic and cultural groups conflict. I use the word culture instead of the word tribes.
Okay.
These are the most intractable kind of a conflict.
Right.
Very difficult. As soon as the forum came into being, I did a lot of traveling with them. I drove. I went to Toinsang, to Noklak, to Mon, to Pek, then back and forth to Hebron, and those days to to Gihoi. Still now,
yes, Gihoi.
Gihoi camp.
Gihoi.
And going, I'll tell you. And then, of course, the peace came in Kohima. So I would, meeting them was not the easiest. The leaders would look at me and they say, well, Wati, Jaijabi, you are a spokesperson for the government of India. Then you go up to another group and they say, well, Abunito ele muy valaga mouthpiece has a jabi. Then you go to another game and they will say, well, you are too close to Azito. So we cannot accept you.
Right.
That was a difficult things that I faced. I remember one group telling me, you are AC Jamir's spokesperson. That was another accusation. But I kept on. Consistency, I learned somewhere that Nagas are very impatient. We give a statement, we write, statements in the paper, and if Nagas don't follow, that's the end. That's the end. We give up. But I felt that this process has to be taken up seriously. It was a sacrificial kind of a work. It was serious calling. So I committed to doing this seriously. I prayed a lot about it, and it took us finally. They agreed that okay, we are willing to meet, not in the highest level, but in the second rank
Secretarial level. Okay.
in the Kilonser's level,
Okay.
not the top ones,
Okay.
not the chairman, the president, or the secretary. So the word came from the top,
Okay.
meaning Isaac Muiva said, okay, but you can meet with those second rank.
First.
Kaplan said the same thing.
First.
Shinya said the same thing. Tinusale, General Tinusale said the same thing. So we were discussing where to meet. And most of them felt that we should not meet in Nagaland.
I say.
Because if we are in a meeting, what if some people came and shoot us? And plus in Nagaland will not be free. So that was the irony.
Okay.
Nagas could not meet in your own land
Right.
for fear. You see, the enmity was so strong. The evil was so finesse that people were not willing to even meet. They were so fearful of each other. You see, that was the kind of a situation. Nagas will not know this. Young people will not know, but that was it. So I said, then where? It will be difficult for Nagas to meet in Calcutta or Delhi. Naga issue, meeting outside of Nagaland in Delhi. It's going to be, or somewhere outside of the state. So they suggest, do you know any place like in the Bangkok, Thailand? Someone suggested. So we landed up in Chiang Mai.
Yeah, I remember.
And
the
the
first
first time we flew, one group came up to me and said, we are not going to fly in the same plane, in the same flight, when the other group is flying.
to that level.
To
right?
that level.
To
And
that level.
the hearers here, you will think that this is quite a joke.
Most
It's
of
very
them, they
funny.
wouldn't know.
People
They
will
wouldn't
think
know.
that.
They wouldn't
But that was the level of suspicion, fear that they had accumulated. And so, and then I put them in different, I remember one of them was in Indian Airlines and the
Okay.
other was in Thai Airways.
Seriously.
Seriously. When we reached the YMCA International Hotel, again,
Go on.
they didn't know, in Chiang Mai,
Okay.
they didn't want to sleep in the same floor.
Go on.
So we had to change the floors. Some of them in the 5th floor, some in the 3rd floor. That was the
So even at a point where you guys were already in Thailand, and you had only landed, and you're in the same hotel, even at that point of time they had not met,
Yeah.
right? So how did you overcome all these challenges,
Well-
the distrust, the anger?
Well, it's a process.
Okay.
We had to, first of all, you see, we couldn't talk heavy issues.
And
We were simply making all the efforts to make them at ease,
I see. Icebreakers.
icebreakers,
Okay.
and make them feel comfortable.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So that's when we decided to play football. Okay.
I
And
remember.
many
Continue.
people-
I remember.
Many people are very, very critical about, hey, you think by playing football you
I remember.
you bring peace. No, I tell you, my friends, you know, those who are hearing, please don't think that we were so simplistic, that playing football will solve the Naga problem. No,
Right.
I knew it. That was not the answer, but was simply a means.
I mean,
To bring them together. It was a means. You know, you call it, you said, icebreaker. Yes,
Yes.
we needed to do that. So slowly, they were shaking hands. Can you imagine? These are
Right.
our own Naga people from the same town, from the same community,
awesome.
but there was a distance. There was such an alienation. You know, the gap was just tremendous.
The distrust among them.
So finally, when they started to, they loosen up, started to shake. And I remember the first morning having breakfast, the restaurant was empty because they were all coming down and looking if you had the other group sitting down. If they
Right.
were, they would not come.
Right.
So I would go wait for them and say, please, Aibi kunbi nai. There's nobody, you are alone, you know.
Right,
and you'll eat quickly and run up. And then the other group will come down.
Right. Right.
So, but thank God
Thank
that
God.
in 2009, the Covenant of Reconciliation was signed.
Right. Yeah, those were really tough times. We used to write reports in regard to the football match that was played between the Naga political groups. And that was such a tremendous time to actually see the political groups engage in something other than, shooting at each other in the streets. They were actually playing football together. So that was the starting point of it all, right? So
Well, we played first in Chiang Mai. That was in 2008 at the end.
okay.
Then after that, we played 2 times here, one in Kohima and one in Dimapur.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I remember the one in Dimapur, but not in Kohima. So, the story about the Naga political group leaders refusing to be in the same flight as the others, I think was similar to a report that we got during the time. It seems like they refused to come to a Forum for Naga Reconciliation meeting in Dimapur because they were afraid that someone would shoot them. I mean, the other delegates
Yeah.
would come over and shoot them. That's why they refused. Is it true? Was
Well,
it to that extent?
This was the first. The first few meetings were outside
Okay.
in
Okay.
Chiang Mai. Then we decided that we should now start meeting in our own homeland. So we, the first meeting within the Naga group within our land was in Dahiko, the
Dahiko.
Akuvuto, the Baptist Center.
Was it the Western Sumiho?
Yeah, Western Simiho.
Western Sumiho's office.
Office,
That
that's
area.
right.
Yes, yes.
That's
that
where
one.
we get
Tell us more. Tell us more. Dr.
That's where we get. So again, this was the first time people, the security personnel were out there on the
Yeah.
roadside. We were stopped. I was stopped in 2 places, just going from traveling from Care Mall to Dahika, the Western Simi Oho Baptist Center, asking the army would ask, where are you going? They knew who I was, that I was with the FNR. So I told them clearly, this is a reconciliation program. We are not talking about how to fight with
Yes.
with the government of India. We are talking about how we can be reconciled, how Nagas can be one. That's what we are talking about. When we got there in the last minute, the group from Hebron were gathering in Tezepe village, and from Tezepe to reach Taiko was a matter of maybe 15-20 minutes. So I get a call and they said, well, we cannot come down. I said, the others are waiting for you.
Yes.
You are the last one. No, because we heard that the K group, they are fully armed,
Yeah,
and they are waiting for us.
Right.
They're waiting in bushes.
we heard that.
So I immediately called those people that I know, and the particular group from Kehoi said, no, that's not true. We have never detailed anyone. You better find it out from your town commander. And he said, it's certain that there's nobody like that. They all know that we are meeting.
Yes.
But later on, we came to know that it was a ploy of the Third Force.
Okay.
They were made to dress up in our Naga uniform, Naga people, in the army fatigue, and I think from Nagajan they passed the railway station towards that and disappeared.
Wow.
So that was a matter of fact. That information came to us.
That's insidious.
Yes.
Wow. So how did you, besides the idea of actually resolving those initial differences and suspicion among the Naga political groups, how did you actually get each other to start talking? Like,
It was a process, as I said, and we had to have a definite agenda. We couldn't go around talking what was not possible. We had to begin with what is possible. The common, what binds the Naga people together. Okay. The essence of Naga nationalism. And everybody agreed on that essence of Naga nationalism, the historical, the political rights of the Naga people. So that from there we continued to talk, kept on talking. I think by the year 2010, we made a tremendous progress.
it led to the
The Covenant of
the Covenant,
Reconciliation was
yes.
signed in 2009, and the signing of the Covenant of Reconciliation
right.
is something notable.
Right.
I would say that again, those who are hearing, all they heard was that the Covenant of Reconciliation was signed on 13 June 2009. That's what they hear. Yeah, that's true. It was signed on the 13th June 2009, but the manner in which it was signed, it's also very interesting.
Tell us about that.
It took me actually, I was stationed in Chiang Mai area for 40 days and 40 nights, trying to connect with, and I remember I used to go on a motorbike with the bikers, sit at the back.
Right,
They just
interesting.
drive to the nearest village in the Golden Triangle. Okay. And after sometimes I felt I couldn't stand anymore with my back.
Right.
So I had to ride my own bike. I did. I had to hire, I rode and somebody told me, you look a little bit different. You have to be a little more rough. You got to have a, cargo pant.
Right.
Buy a boot. You must tie your hair and don't wear shirt. It must be t-shirt, very dirty, torn t-shirt.
Right.
So I did that, riding the bike to go to the other side and to make them, to give the letter for signing. So it took me 40 days, 40 nights. That's traveling.
Okay.
It was not easy. I was much younger those days, so
You're still young.
I could ride the bike without any difficulty.
Right.
But now I will not be able to do that. So the letter finally reached Kaplang through the proper person. The person took the letter, and before then we had already talked in the phone. You have to sign this.
There was Kaplang, right?
Kaplang.
Yeah, the late Kaplang.
Then the letter reached Isaac in the Philippines. Then Sinia was here in Nuklak. Sinia had already signed, and the letter was brought to me by one of his trusted person.
Wow.
Then on the 13th of June, I was sitting down in my computer. It was a morning time, and there was no college. So 13 June, as I sat, I got a call from the Philippines at about 10 o'clock.
Wow.
This is Isaac saying, Dr. Wati, I've signed the Covenant of Reconciliation. I've signed it, and it's going to be brought to you today. You'll get a scanned copy. The original copy, when we meet, we'll give you, but a scanned copy will come to you.
Wow.
That's what he said. I said, Uncle, thank you very much. Then, after 10 minutes, I got a call from Kaplang.
Wow.
Can you imagine that?
Wow.
As if it was a rehearsed kind of a thing.
Right.
So Kaplang calls me
Wow.
10 minutes after, and Kaplang had a very strong accent. You had to be very careful, and those days the phone from Burma was not clear at all.
Right.
He was speaking to me in the satellite phone.
Okay.
So
okay.
he said, "Sign kori diside."
Wow.
So I said, "Baba aro ek bar ko bito." He said, "Sign hoiside."
Wow.
He said. Okay. So I said, "Thank you." Sign Kora paper to Andibo. It's going to be brought to you by this afternoon. So he had already sent people in advance.
Wow.
So I got that. So it's like providence, actually. That I take it as a miracle. That on the same day, one from Philippines, another from Dhaka,
Yes.
in the Naga area in Burma. Sometimes you think that perhaps could it be that Isaac and Kaplang discuss about this? No, they were not in talking terms.
It was such a wonderful
And
coincidence.
they couldn't have talked because those days the mobile phone was not as accessible as we
Yes.
have today.
Right.
It was very difficult.
Right.
And those days in Burma, it was very difficult to use mobile phone.
Right. Wow. Do you think all these actions somehow, because even right after the signing of the Covenant of Reconciliation, there was a lot of issues actually.
Yeah.
And I think there were also a couple of killings even after that. So do you think that all these incidents of grace, providence, as you put it, did they encourage you to actually keep on pushing through, or did you think that when the killing started after the signing of the covenant, do you think that you had actually exhausted all your means?
No.
Did you feel?
I was quite certain
Okay.
that even after the signing, you'll have pockets of conflicts,
Right.
at least for a few more months. And I calculated that because those days, again, it was very difficult to reach the commander of the army unit stationed in the jungle.
Right.
So when the Covenant of Reconciliation was signed and it was already announced, it was not difficult to practice here in Hebron and then Kehoy.
Okay.
In Dimapur, Kohima, it was not difficult because the news
Okay.
spread very fast. But in remote areas, the commander did not know that.
Wow.
So it took them time.
It took them
But
time.
after that, by the end of 2009, there was a complete cessation.
Right.
That
right.
not a single life was taken.
It's a reward of the work.
So that is a miracle, actually. You know, and you can say to even today, till now,
Right.
you don't see. I mean, I'm sure there must have been some encounters in terms of
Yes.
verbal encounters, little bit of hatred, little bit of anger, but in terms of trying to eliminate one
Yeah, I
another.
think, I
That
think the
has not
climate
been-
has changed. The climate has
That's
changed.
changed.
Just we have had a wonderful conversation, and I didn't even realize the period for the talk show that we've been allocated, it has flown so fast by. So I'll ask you one more question, Doctor. Where will the reconciliation process go now after the September Accord? Like, what is the future for you, the reconciliation process, and what does it mean for the Naga people? Just briefly.
Yeah, we are looking, first of all, the 14th September declaration
Oh, okay.
by the last year, 2022,
okay. Mm-hmm.
by the NSN and the NNBGs.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
This was a declaration after 8 years of silence. You remember the government everything started calling the NSNIM. This was, I'll have to take you back to
Okay, briefly. Yeah.
very briefly. You see, when we were talking about one government, one tax, that was, and I know it was not easy, but we were in the middle of that kind of a conversation. Then all of a sudden, the NSNIM was called by the center
Okay.
to come and begin the talk again. You see,
Wow.
that was it. So the idea of one government, one tax was no longer the topic for us.
Okay.
The interest was then out of that, the framework agreement signed. Very good,
Right.
fine.
Right.
And then in the process, again, the NNBG developed a certain development came to the other Naga political groups, and the agreed position was signed. We have two positions, two documents, and I've said this in the meeting, and I want to say to the public, we have said that you cannot pretend that you don't. There is only one.
Right.
No, it's a fact that you have two. The agreed position and the framework agreement. Framework agreement was the first
Okay.
with the NSN. Then later on came the agreed position. Now, let us not try to assume that there is only one. There are two agreements that have been worked out by the government of India with the Naga political groups. So what I'm trying to say, what FNR is saying is, look, can we have an understanding? Can we cooperate,
Right.
cooperation?
Right.
I think at this moment, politics of cooperation is the most important thing. Can we cooperate? And when we talk about unity, I want to let the public know this.
Yeah.
Unity has to be redefined. Let us not try to bring together what is not possible. We should not try to, I've worked at it for many years, and we must not spend time what is impossible, but what is possible.
Right.
The possible is that we can agree that we are different. We can agree that we are different. I'm different, you are different, but we can cooperate. We can shake hands to cooperate. That's where we are, and that's unity.
Right. Thank you so much, Doctor, for coming and joining us in this wonderful conversation.
Thank you.
And I think if we were to really talk about all this stuff, it'll take a lot of time, but I think we'll engage in this conversation in later programs again. And I'm such a big fan of you. We'll do that again
Thank
later
you.
on. Yeah.
Thank you for this.
Reverend Dr. Wati Iyer, ladies and gentlemen. In March 2011, Iyer was selected for the Baptist World Alliance Denton and Janice Lutz Human Rights Award for 2010. The journey for the forum has been rough, and until there are no factions left except for one representing their entirety, there is still much work to be done. Yet amid all this, the FNR remains the rock on which the reconciliation discourse of the Naga people still stands. I'm your host, Al Nguli. See you next time.